What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Appreciate you guys tuning in for another video. We're finally home from the vacation after the vacation and going through some tackle. Wanted to bring you guys, everyone's been asking about this video, so we're gonna kind of go through some of the tackle I brought home. I can't show you guys everything because I brought home some sneaky stuff that I don't know if I want to show anybody just yet, but I'm going to show you some of the stuff I brought home, some stuff I think is really cool, and kind of go through all of the, I guess all of the tackle that I seen there. You know, we'll kind of dive into all of it and give you the whole experience of what we went through and show you a few of the baits that I brought home. You know, I brought home some familiar faces, some familiar names that, with some different baits that I'd never seen, but it was really cool experience going to Japan and seeing all the tackle shops there in and around the Tokyo area. And man, it's really cool to see all this stuff and see how the shops operate there versus here. So if you guys are ready, let's jump in and we're gonna talk all about all the tackle from Japan. Okay, I don't even know where to start here. Like I said, I picked out a few items to show you guys here. Like I said, this is not everything. I got some stuff in the back that we're gonna leave out of the camera that I don't wanna show anybody just yet. But, you know, a lot of the tackle shops were set up pretty cool. So they were very small buildings. You know, some of them even like in the basement of an office building, or there may be like a restaurant on top, and then you walk down the stairs and there's just this little room. I don't even know, maybe what, 20 by 20, 30 by 30, little tiny rooms that are just stacked wall to wall. Like you look at my wall behind me and their walls were stacked closer and tighter and more tackle than I have right here. It was wild to see from literally the floor all the way to the ceiling, just stacked. And, you know, one of the unique things that I noticed about, you know, especially like the plastics, but also even the hard baits, is like, take for instance, they had a aisle or a peg of Yamamoto. Like these are a little minnow style bait, a 3-inch angry stick. So this is a bait I'd never seen before. But say they would have a peg of these, they would not all be the same color. So like you would have to kind of pick through and look behind all the other baits to see if there was different colors back there. So the whole peg wouldn't be the same color. Generally it would be the same bait. You know, like the one peg would be the same 3-inch angry stick, but there might be a black one in the back, green pumpkin, baby bass, natural shad, like they all be mixed in on the same peg. So that was a little unique to see, and it was kind of that way at all the different shops. And I guess it's just because they don't have room for all of the different colors. But like I said, this was a cool little bait that I seen that I wanted to bring home and try. Never seen that from Yamamoto. The little angry stick. That's a cool little bait right there. But the other thing I noticed in the tackle shops over there is all of the Yamamoto packaging is yellow. So I guess that is the Japanese brand or division of Yamamoto baits. You know, all the packaging was yellow over there. So they had a whole bunch of baits. A lot of the same stuff that we have here on the Yamamoto side of things, but there was a couple new baits that I'd never seen, like the angry stick. And then this little guy is just a little craw bug style bait, I guess. That's a cool little bait. That's a small bait. It's 2.4 inches is what they say, but that is a very small little bait that, you know, I'd like to just kind of nose hook him on a drop shot or put him on the back of a jig, which that was you know, one of the trends that I noticed in all the tackle shops were either really big baits or really small baits. You know, there wasn't a whole lot of that in-between size that you typically see here, that 3 to 4 inch. You know, there was some of it, but I would say generally speaking, they were either really small stuff or really big stuff. And yeah, a lot of it. So let's start on the big side of things, just because that's cool. You know, all the tackle shops had lines of the big baits, the big glide baits, you know, all of your, drawing a blank on the name, the the fish arrow, the DRT stuff. They had bunches of that, the risers, the, what's the other name? I don't know. I'm drawing a blank on all the glide bait. I'm not that in tune with all the high-end glide baits like that they threw over there. You know, there was a bunch of Agancraft jointed claws. Like every shop just had piles of them, whether it would just be like sprawled out on a table or a big aisle full of them. And for me, I did not buy too many big baits. I bought this guy right here that I'd never seen before. I wanted to try him. I thought he looked cool. That's called a Grace, I think. Grace. It says Grace on the back. Looks like Cultiva is the brand. Cultiva Grace. But I thought he looked really cool. He's got a unique tail on there, and it's a big glide bait, you know, kind of close to the surface. I think this is the slow sinking model, so he doesn't, you know, he's not going to sink real fast. But I thought he looked pretty cool, and he cost me $6,600, so he was a pretty expensive one there. What was the exchange rate? I think it was 144 to 1. No,
so 149.
149? 149 to 1. So you divided 6,600 by 149, and that's what it actually cost us in American dollars. So it was cool to see all the big baits. They had tons of them, like I said, and it was like overwhelming. There were so many of them, and I didn't want to buy something that isn't the best, or you know, something that I don't really know what I'm getting myself into. So that's why I didn't spend a whole lot of money and time. I definitely looked at them, but I didn't spend a whole lot of money buying them and bringing them back, just because I don't really throw the big baits all that much. And I'm pretty happy with the ones that I do have here. So got the Grace, and then we got a couple other swim baits, more kind of like a mag draft style swim bait. These are two cool little baits, but they almost have a bill on the front. I don't know if you can see that. It's like a square bill. So I'm not sure if these are actually going to dive. You know, if that bill is going to make this bait dive, or if that's just going to make him wiggle a little bit more. And then he's kind of got just a straight tail on the back, not really like a mag draft paddle tail. He's just got kind of a straight tail that I'm sure it's going to kick a little bit. So we got a couple of those little just mag draft style swim baits. I'm excited to mess around with those and see what those go for. Let's see, what else we got that's big? We got these right here. These were some cool big, I would say these are more like your bluegill imitator baits. They're the Jackal King drift crawl, but it's a big flat hunk of plastic. You know, kind of looks like the bull slide or bull flat, you know, kind of a big bluegill imitator bait. And I just got a pack of those to try those just because I'd never seen those. I got some appendages off the back, some pretty cool looking baits there. What else? We got this guy right here. This guy's pretty cool. I don't know when I'm going to use him, but I thought he looked pretty cool. This is a D style. I can't even begin to pronounce the name. I'm just going to show you the bait. Look at that guy right there. So I guess that's a minnow style bait, but he almost looks like a skeleton, a filleted fish. You know, I don't even know how I'm going to rig this guy. Surely we'll figure something out, but that is a cool looking bait right there. I had to buy a pack just because of how cool they look. I mean, the head is very natural. It looks just like a fish. I don't know if it's going to have a swimming action. I don't know if it's for more of like a Texas rig, a drop shot. I have no idea, but I had to buy one of those just to try him, see what he does. So I'm going to take him out on the water and see what he does, whether I rig him on a drop shot, Texas rig. You know, maybe you rig him sideways like this and just kind of have him fall down like that, almost like a dying fish. I don't really know, but so this is one I'm going to get to experiment with. But I mean, that's a pretty big bait. That's a, what do they call it? They have a number on there, 5.8 inch. 5.8 inch, we'll call him the skeleton fish. And he smells a little bit. That's the other thing I noticed is all of their plastics have scent in them. A lot of scent, and you know, I like that. I really like that, just because it you know, gives you a little added layer after I just touch that bait up all like that. Now my smell is not going to be on that bait when a fish comes to look at it. So now let's go to the opposite end of the spectrum and look at the small baits. You know, I showed you the little stuff from Yamamoto. One of the coolest things that I seen was these little tiny jigs. I mean, tiny little compact. They call them just a compact jig, but this is like a compact flipping jig. Like, it's got a very stout hook on it, a good little hook. You know, this is the 5 gram size. So this is a, what is it called? Bottom Up Gap Jig. Really cool little jig. And I feel like I could utilize this all over the country and catch some fish on it. You know, they had a few different sizes. I think I got some 5 gram and some 9 gram, maybe. I'm not really sure how that converts the size. You know, this is a pretty small bait, so I'd have to probably throw this guy on a spinning rod. But I think I got one big enough I could probably flip around on a bait caster, just a real small little jig. And you know, I'm either gonna put that little Yamamoto crawl in there, the Raider, Dead Ratter, I don't, something. We're gonna either put him on there, or I found these guys too, these little Jackal craws, the Slit Craw, Bleecker Slit Craw, that you know, almost kind of fits this jig perfectly. Makes a little small profile on there and makes a nice little compact jig. So this is definitely the smallest little finesse jig I've ever seen that has a very stout hook on it. Like, you could still throw this on a bait caster with heavy line and not worry about straightening out that hook. So that's what I was really intrigued about with this little jig. You know, I've seen a bunch of little micro jigs before, but they always have really thin wire hooks that you would straighten out if you used heavy line. And this one, you could get away with, you know, heavier line on there and still get a good hook set. And I like the gap on it. I mean, that's just a nice little jig right there. Really like those. So I'm excited to try those out on the water. What else we got? What else we got? These little guys, I found these were actually in the saltwater section. They were on clearance in the saltwater section. They are called a jelly sardine. It's just a small little inline swim bait. It almost looks like a mag draft, but a micro version, like a 2-inch version of a little mag draft called the jelly sardine. Just something that I want to try. You know, it's got the harness through there with a treble hook. So it's just something I'm going to try on, you know, maybe schooling fish on those small little bait fish or something like that. Just something different to try. I got 2 packs of those. I got oh, I guess these are 2 different ones. So I got the shad tail, which is more of your paddle tail. And this one is, I can't read all of this writing back here. So I don't know what exactly the name of this tail is, but it has more of just a forked tail that kind of kicks a little bit, rather than this one is more of the paddle tail like the mag draft. So got a couple of those little guys to mess around with. What else we got? These frogs were really cool. So these kind of caught my eye. They had frogs everywhere, all different kinds of frogs, and a lot of stuff that I'd seen before. You know, that was one of the things that I noticed over there, was a lot of the tackle I had seen or heard of before, but they had all of it available there and all the different colors available. That's one thing that, you know, we can't always get here, is all the colors and all the varieties of the baits. But a lot of the stuff I had heard or seen of before, but this one I had not heard of. This is a Shimano branded frog. It's called the BT frog. So I picked up a few of those, but it's a cool little frog. You know, he just looks cool on the back. He's kind of got a unique shape to him. I don't know if you can see that on the belly, but he's kind of, you know, more of your standard frog shape, but this is flat. Like, this is completely flat down here. So I imagine he's going to walk very well, just because it's not a very pointed end. This is very flat, so he's kind of going to slide a little bit and definitely be good for skipping under stuff. You know, I feel like that flat surface right there would help skip under bushes, lay down, stuff like that. You know, now that I've taken him out of the package, he is very, very hard. So I don't like that. You know, he's very, very stiff and hard. So getting a hook set, you know, trying to hook a fish on that, I would rather have a softer frog. But That plastic's just very hard and dense, so it'll definitely help it skip better, but I'm not sure how the hookup ratio will be on that frog. But just a cool little frog that I got to try mess around with. You know, I got 3 of them. I got a black one, or a black bellied one. I got a white bellied one that has a purple back, and then I got kind of a clear one, clear with silver glitter. I don't know if you can see through there, but just 3 different, you know, color options, shades of colors just to try, just in case it is a good frog. That way I have a couple different options. All right, let's move on from the frogs. What else we got? Let's check out some more plastics. These guys have kind of taken over. Should I open them up? Let's open them up, show you guys. I've seen these around on Instagram before, but finally saw some in person, and you know I had to grab some. Tell me what you think this looks like. These are called the AK Punch. So this is essentially a little flipping bait. You rig up probably a 2/0 straight shank flipping hook in there, and this guy swims like very unique through the water. But cool little bait. I had to pick some of those up to try, and I think those will catch some fish right there. They're very heavy and very cool little bait. Had to grab a few of the AK Punch. They've been very popular lately in Japan. I know a lot of people have been catching some fish on those, so I had to grab some of those and try. You guys know I love some bug baits, so I picked up these. These are the is that an N or an M? Need cicada? I think it's a need.
Yeah, it's an N.
I think that's an N?
Yeah.
Need cicada. So it's kind of a cicada bait. You know, this is like I think this is a floating plastic. I'm not really sure. I think that's floating, but it's got a wire harness through the middle with 2 feathers. So that when that lands on the water, that's going to look a lot like a bug. So that's pretty cool. You know, I feel like you'll have to throw him on, you know, kind of like a wacky hook and just kind of work him on the surface. But that'll be a cool little bait to try, especially, you know, around the mayfly hatch or something like that. The Need cicada bait. Then we got into some spinner baits and chatter baits. You know, they had all different kinds of chatter baits or bladed jigs. You know, everyone had their own version of essentially a jackhammer. I got a couple of the tungsten jackhammers while we were over there, but those were all very similar to what we have here. So these are a few things that I hadn't seen before. Well, I have seen these before, but I haven't been able to get my hands on them. And that's the Kitech branded hard bait or wire baits, you know. So I got a couple of spinner baits and a couple of their bladed jig. So this blade is set up a little different than any bladed jig I've ever seen before. So that's a very unique setup on a bladed jig. So I'm curious to see how he swims. You see that blade is just going to shake along that wire. So it's almost a combination of a spinnerbait and a bladed jig. So that'll be cool to mess around with and see what those do. They're very, very interesting looking. I like the big eye. You know, if you add a Zako on the back of there, let him swim around, have that big eyeball, I think he'll be looking pretty cool. So I'm going to mess around with those. I got a few of the spinner baits. They seem very well made. High quality components, good hook in there. Excited to see what the little spinner baits do. And here's another little spinner bait I got I'm interested to mess around with. This is the Beeble, I believe. Bottom up Beeble. So it's a willow leaf spinner bait to start, but up here, I don't know if you can see, there's a blade that's attached on the wire. And I feel like when you're swimming this thing, that blade is going to catch some water and make him dart a little bit or add a little different vibration to it. So I'm not really sure what he's going to do, but I thought that was unique and you know, just a little different look on your spinnerbait. So going to try him out. That was pretty cool. That's something I'd never seen before, was that blade on the wire of the spinnerbait. So that'll be a pretty cool little bait to try. And then we got into a few crankbaits. So we found a few balsa baits. I'm not even going to be able to pronounce this. This is a handmade lure made in Japan, the Kikatsu, something like that. But I got a couple of each size. So this is a shallow running, I got a medium running and a deep running, all of the same little Balsa flat-sided crankbait. You know, I love throwing little Balsa crankbaits like that, so we got one of those. But this guy right here probably stole the show. This was probably the most prized possession from the trip. We got one of the infamous monkey brain crankbaits. So this guy right here is extremely hard to find, and we found one thanks to Mono, one of our friends that we met over there, and he had one, and he was nice enough to allow me to buy it from him. So we come home with a prized possession, a monkey brain crankbait. Those are extremely hard to find, extremely popular, and just really a collector's item. I'm not even sure if I'll fish this guy. I feel like I just gotta collect him, and maybe we'll pull him out in emergency situations, but paid a lot of money for that guy, so that's probably just a collectible item right there. But speaking of Mono, he gave me one of his baits that he makes, and this thing is really cool. This is a kind of a wake bait, topwater, but it will dive just a little bit. But he puts a lot of thought into his baits and how he makes them. It's got a little afro on here. It's a whale. It's a whale. It's got a little afro of tinsel on the top, so when he's in the water, you know, he's going to be flashing. He has very unique action. You know, he had a couple different versions he was showing us, but these are really cool. So this is a balsa bait. You know, he carves these out of balsa, and then didn't want to add any wire through the bait, so he add all the wire to the bottom, which is pretty cool to have that, you know, that system all the way through. So that way your line tie is connected to your hook. You know, that way you can't ever pull out of the bait. You're always going to stay connected to your catch. So that's what's really cool about that. But that is, what is that called? The Echo Mini, I believe. But that's a cool bait right there that Mono gave us. Extremely thankful for that. And that's, I'm definitely going to have to try him. I'm going to throw him and see what he does in the water. But that also might become just one of those collectible items that you just can't fish with. He's just so cool. And the story behind him, you know, you just want to hang him up and keep him forever. So, all right. Appreciate you guys tuning in for another video. Hopefully you enjoyed the tackle as much as I did. I got to get to work and get this all organized now. This is the hardest part. You know, the shopping was fun, bringing it home, the laying it all out, that was all the fun stuff. But now the work begins where I actually got to organize it and put it in places that I'll be able to actually use it now. It was cool to buy it, see it all, but now I got to actually put it into use. So I got to organize it in a way that I can actually take it out on the boat and use it. So appreciate you guys tuning in. As always, leave those likes, comments down below. Hit the subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you guys next time.